There's a bear hopped up on cocaine. The Grinch is even meaner than we thought. Indy 5's trailer and title are here, and we share our spoiler-filled thoughts on Wakanda Forever, and the RIP segment has sadly returned with a vengeance. All this plus trailers tonight. That's right, 918ers, it's Thursday, and we're back with our last few shows of 2022. I'm your host, the Geek Boy. Joining me tonight is Goldar, the gamer with the golden throat. Commander of Ice Station 918, Mr. Narwhal, is in the house, and we're kicking off another episode of this fantastic week. How's everybody doing out there tonight?
Doing well. How about yourselves?
Good
deal. I tell you what, we had a little bit of jumpiness on our motion graphics, but everything else seems to be working okay. So we're just going to charge on here, and I think the audio is good. I'm seeing subtitles. That means we have sound. So it's all good right now. So I want to thank.
We've got a picture. Those are the two big things that we need. Now,
that is true.
Is the entertainment.
Actually, now if all we have was some entertaining content, we would be batting 1,000, man. I'm telling you. I want to thank everyone who's tuned into tonight's broadcast. We've been off the last couple of weeks, one for the holiday and the other for an event that we'll be discussing a little bit later. But first, as always, we hope that everybody has a good time tonight. We want all your comments, even if you seem to be watching time shifted. We'll do our best to respond. Also, please leave a like and share this video. Also, if you are so inclined, please jump over to our YouTube page and like and subscribe to it as well. We are trying to grow our presence on that platform to the point that we've considered moving to YouTube exclusively for this broadcast starting next year. So please help us do that if you can. Also, we want to give a shout out to our distribution partner. That would be Audacity TV. They're an OTT. That's an over-the-top service similar to Roku. And for the foreseeable future, they will be carrying the best segments of this program. And Mr. Narwhal does assure me that those do exist. He's graciously been putting them together for us. They're in addition to this show's greatest hits, they are also carrying some of our other content that you will be able to see over there. You'll be able to watch them on your large screen instead of on your phone or tablet. And one of those programs that they're carrying the legacy installments of it, is a great bit of gaming content that Goldar manages for us. Goldar, you want to kind of talk about that for a second?
Yeah, so, excuse me. I head up Fanboys Nightcrawlers, which is a block of programming where I play a game for you. Usually it's a horror game or a horror action game. And right now on our YouTube channel, we are playing The Last of Us. I have actually finished the game, so it's in the can. I am now editing and posting the videos. There's going to be 10 chapters for this, so it's definitely a short one.
Oh, wow. It's a lot shorter than your last one.
It is. They are much shorter, but the episodes are a little bit longer. Some of them are an hour and a half, but it is a bit shorter. I wanted to hurry and finish this game for you just before we start the show, The Last of Us, on HBO Max in January. So we're just in time. So by the time I post all the episodes, we'll be probably running into the show when it starts.
Gotcha.
On our Audacity platform, we are showing The Last of Us Part 2.
Oh, wow.
So I played The Last of Us 2 first. For our channel, and then I went back and played the original so everybody could see the full story. It's fantastic from beginning to end. I am a big fan of Last of Us Part 2 the most, just because the gameplay is a little bit better, a little bit more upgraded. The weapons are a little bit better, and the story is incredible. I love a revenge story, and that's definitely it for the second part. But the first one is more of a journey, more of an exploration, more of a tension story, and it's fantastic.
Oh, okay, all right. So you're kind of split on which one you like better as far as story wise. Then you like elements of both.
I like elements of both, but I would definitely say I like the second one the best. Just for, I love a revenge story. That's what it is. It forces you to play the protagonist and the antagonist, and by the time you're at the end of the game, you don't really know who's who. Your affiliation will probably be with the character that you played with the longest, which is Ellie, because you played her in the first game. You were with her in the first game, and in the second. You play as her in the second game, but that's the only differentiating factor there, because otherwise you can see why both characters that you play hate each other in the second game. So, yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot of story there. So,
well, and I remember reading about that when Last of Us Part 2 came out. A lot of people, it was kind of divisive that you basically switch characters.
Yeah,
some people didn't like it.
I think a lot of people didn't like that, but I think that just boils down to like people just want a character to hate and a character to love, rather than having like a middle ground where like you can't choose because that's one thing about human behavior is that we always like the simplest path that resolves conflict.
Yes, we do.
So if you are posed with a situation where you don't know what to choose or you don't know how to feel because you can see it from both sides, people will get frustrated with that. But I love that because it forces people to think about both sides, to feel what other people are feeling on both sides, and that there's may not be a true resolution or a true right or wrong to a situation. So I love those things.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a cool way to look at it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So again, that's you're already airing episodes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So this week we are airing, I believe it's episode 5 or 6 of The Last of Us out of 10.
Okay.
So we're halfway through.
Yeah. Wow. Says we got some folks in the chat, but I don't see anybody popping up on my screen. So, so in addition to night crawlers, we were off for the holiday, and we were off the week before that for another reason. We got the honor of basically hosting. That wasn't the original plan, but it was bestowed upon us, and we seized the opportunity. We want to thank the folks at Retromania for letting us basically take over their convention and host it. We got to moderate a lot of talks and panels with great people like Brian, 80s icon Brian Tochi, and we got to speak with legendary stuntman Dickie Beer, Austin St. John, the Red Ranger, as well as doing a segment with Star Trek Next Generation's Denise Crosby. All of these, or I'd say most of these, are eventually going to make their way to our YouTube page. And we're going to be releasing the what I call the Retromania sessions. And we're going to kind of put those up maybe one a week until we get them all released or whatnot. I know we've got some footage turned out better than others, so we're going to kind of massage them a little bit and see what happens. But we will be dropping those on our YouTube page exclusively. So just one more reason that you guys need to jump over there and like and subscribe to that. And lastly, I'm going to talk about our Friday night block of programming. Sci-Fi Friday's been dark since the end of September. We ran Friday Night Stalker, and our plan is to premiere next week the first of our multi-part James Bond 60th anniversary celebration. Nobody Does It Better. That is our plan. We will see what happens. But we're gonna air that content where we basically all got together and recorded some sessions to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the James Bond franchise. So, I would love to say that that's the last of the feckless shilling that I'm going to do tonight, but it's really not, because those of you that tune in regularly may notice that I am not in a Fanboys 918 shirt, and the reason I'm not in a Fanboys 918 shirt is because I'm cold. And all those shirts are a bit they're very soft, but are all short sleeved. The ones that I have now, Mr. Narwhal, are you officially transitioned to Ice Station 918 up there yet?
Oh yeah, we've got about 5 inches of snow at least on the ground, and our temperatures have been in the teens and 20s now, ever since Thanksgiving, really.
Oh, nice. I'm so glad that you're there and I'm not. I wish there was a place where I could get a fancy Fanboys 918 hoodie, or maybe a sweater, or even a long sleeve. Do you know if there's a place we could do that?
I've heard rumors that there are. In fact, I think we might. Let's see here. We might actually have a trailer for that.
Well, let's check that out.
What is this place? What is it that you do here? Merchandising.
Merchandising? What's that?
Merchandising. Come, I'll show you. Come, walk this way. Take a look. We put the name on everything. The t-shirt, the lunchbox, the breakfast cereal. Kids love this one. Merchandising, merchandising, where the real money is made.
That's right, gang. Our merchandise store is open. Jump over there and grab you some nice Fanboys 918 swag. You can support us while you do it. And I'm going to go over there and pick me up a hoodie because it's cold. So with all that, guys, we have, unfortunately, a huge RIP segment tonight. And so, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and run the intro for that. We're going to get into it. That's right, and you know, we joked that little segment there is kind of flippant, but it's been a sad day or sad time for pop culture the last couple of weeks. You know, we've been off a couple of weeks, so that's why we have a kind of a backlog of these. But we had a lot happen in a big hurry. Matter of fact, you know, the first one I'm going to let Mr. Narwhal take point on because he would be the expert on who's our first gentleman that we're paying tribute tonight, Mr. Narwhal.
Yeah, our first RIP is a gentleman that you may not have heard of. His name is Albert Pine, and he is a legendary B filmmaker. He spent a lot of time working with Canon Films and Full Moon Pictures. He is noted for films like Sword and the Sorcerer from '82, Cyborg in '89, which had Jean-Claude Van Damme. He did Doll Man for Full Moon in '91, and he actually did the 1990 version of Captain America with Blast Hard Cheese himself, Red Brown. And he unfortunately was diagnosed with MS about 10 years ago, and he's one of those guys who loved to work and loved what he did, and he pretty much tried to work up until the very end, and it was sort of nice because his wife, now widow, actually put out a call on Facebook and through some of the different fan groups for him, including Sam Peckinpah actually also boosted this, where he was hoping to where he was hoping to hear from his fans in his last days to sort of help to buoy his spirits, and apparently there was a massive outpouring of messages that he received in his final days that really made a big difference to him, according to his widow. So he will definitely be missed.
That is really unfortunate, and again, a lot of folks don't know who he was. So but yet he still had a huge niche following, and my gosh, a lot of those movies, Sword and the Sorcerer, I really knew, and I didn't realize he did Cyborg. So that's unfortunate. Our condolences go out to his family. The second person that we have up was kind of one of the earliest icons of my generation of pop music. She was introduced to us in the early '80s. That's Miss Irene Cara, who my generation knows from doing both the theme and starred in the film of Fame. She did that song that kind of put her on the map. It was a huge hit for her. She continued on after doing Fame. She was going to do a sitcom, I think, at one point. They actually filmed a pilot, but it never aired. Or, excuse me, the pilot aired, but the show was not picked up. She did a lot of stuff on Broadway and things of that nature, but I want to say it was in 1984? No, 1983 is when she hit her peak, when she did the theme to Flashdance. That's probably her biggest hit of all time, I think. She won. I believe she won. Did she win an Oscar for both Fame and Flashdance, or just Flashdance?
She actually got for Flashdance. She got the Academy Award for Best Original Song, and a Grammy Award for it as well.
Yeah, I mean, so she was at the height of her popularity at that point. She did a few movies. She did City Heat. She did DC Cab and whatnot. Unfortunately, her flame burned bright, but it burned kind of well in the mainstream public. It burned kind of brief. I mean, she never really reached those heights again, but she still continued to perform, and of course, could still attract a crowd. She received an Image Award early in the 21st century, and had a lot of different things that she contributed to. So again, it's sad that we lost her tragically, and a lot of these things have kind of happened sort of under the radar, if you will. So we lost her. I'm going to switch over to Goldar because he's got one that's kind of personal to him, and man, was when the news broke of this, was it awkward for us. Goldar, you want to talk about that a minute?
Yeah, so we learned recently that Jason David Frank, who is famous for being the original Green Ranger in Power Rangers in the 1990s, passed away the weekend before Thanksgiving. It was very, very sad situation. As mentioned, Jason David Frank is super popular for being the Green Ranger on Power Rangers. He appeared in a total of 124 episodes of the original Power Rangers, but he later went on to continue to reprise his role in subsequent seasons of Power Rangers Zeo, Power Rangers Turbo, made a few cameo appearances in Wild Force and Super Mega Force, but then returned to the show, returned to Power Rangers Dino Thunder as a regular character, reprising the role of Tommy Oliver that he played. He was a prolific martial artist. He trained in multiple styles, including Shotokan, Wado Ryu, Taekwondo, Judo, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Wing Chun, Jeet Kune Do, and Aikido. He's also held a temporary Guinness World Record in 2013, as he successfully broke the existing record for the most 1-inch pine boards broken during free fall.
Oh.
Yeah. So, he's Guinness Book World Record for a short time there. He had a short career in mixed martial arts as well. That's where he'd been practicing and remained for quite some time there. And he only just recently retired from acting and appearing in Power Rangers in I believe it was 2018.
Wow.
Believe. Yeah, so he'd been involved in it for quite some time. So he leaves behind 4 children. He has 2 sons and 2 daughters rather. And he was actually just recently splitting from his wife as of August 2022, but they were actually reconciling at the time of his death.
Oh man!
So it's very sad. Some reports are saying that he committed suicide, unfortunately. So it's one of those situations where, if you know somebody that is struggling or having a difficult time, please reach out to them. Please try to help them. Please get them some help. Let them know that they're not alone, because it's definitely a tragic loss when somebody takes their own life.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's and of course we got the news at Retromania, which was kind of a little mini celebration of Power Rangers in and of itself. So that was kind of a dark cloud that hung over the second day of that event. But again, it was what it was, and I think everybody kind of just pushed on. But yeah, again, if as Goldar said, if you or anyone is struggling with thoughts of that, please get some help. In addition to Albert Pine and Irene Cara and Jason David Frank, we lost another music legend just a couple of days ago, and that would be one of the prime movers behind a lot of Fleetwood Mac's biggest songs. That's Christine McVie. She was a vocalist, keyboardist, and of course a songwriter. She had been playing in a number of groups since the mid 1960s. She was in a group called British Blues, or excuse me, she was on the British blues scene in a group called Chicken Shack, and then she started with Fleetwood Mac in the late 60s. And, just her talent and her presence on the songs continue to grow. One of the interesting things about Fleetwood Mac, not only about their music, is their very noteworthy interpersonal relationships, if you will. And so I'm sure there's a lot of news and interesting stories out there about that. She, like the rest of Fleetwood Mac, was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And that was in 1998, and she essentially since then has kind of released a solo album in 2004. In 2013, she appeared on stage with Fleetwood Mac, but basically, she was in kind of semi-retirement for a while, and then she toured with them for a little bit in 2014. So again, a musical legend. She was, I was not a big Fleetwood Mac fan. I was just a little too young to really be there and appreciate their music when it came out. But I know that a lot of people were. We know a lot of people. I know a lot of friends that are Fleetwood Mac fans. The songs that Christine McVie is on, she is very easy on the ears, both as a singer and as a songwriter. So once again, our condolences go out to her family and her friends as always. And guys, we got one last one that we're going to do, because if we do any more, it's going to just drag the show down. We're just going to jump off. But this one to me is I think going to be I guess it's the toughest of all the ones we've done tonight. Maybe not. I mean, it's just because we're moving into a time of year where everybody likes to watch Die Hard, okay? And when you watch Die Hard, we watch Die Hard in December because why? At our house, it's a Christmas movie. And you do, when you always bring that up, it always starts the fun debate of whether it is or isn't a Christmas movie. It's all in good fun. But I get the feeling that Die Hard's going to be a very melancholy event this year because we lost Alan Rickman, just a few years ago. And then we just learned earlier this year that due to a medical condition, Bruce Willis is kind of having to, step back from full-time acting. And, then we also learned just a day or two ago that we lost Clarence Gilliard, who played probably the second most memorable terrorist in Die Hard next to Hans Gruber himself. He was Theo, the computer guy who was brought along for his winning personality. But he's going to be immortalized that. But he also played Walker's partner in Walker, Texas Ranger. And he was also Sundown, and I'm trying to find Sundown's real name, or character name, rather. I saw it here just a minute ago, and I've lost it. But anyway, he's done a lot. He does not have a very deep resume compared to a lot of the pop legend icons that we've celebrated here. But the ones that he does have are huge. He was in Top Gun. He was in The Karate Kid Part 2. He was in Die Hard. He did a faith-based movie called Matter of Faith. He was in so many seasons of Matlock. he was in
that's where I remember him.
Yeah, he was in Matlock. He was in Walker, Texas Ranger. He did several Walker, movies, based on, my gosh, like I say, the man doesn't have a huge IMDb page, but what he has is very memorable. And he after a while, he kind of, and when I say around 2000, in the early 2000s, he took some time off to teach. He became a professor of acting and an acting instructor. And then he kind of started to step back into acting a little bit. Actually, in 2016, he actually performed on stage the Driving Miss Daisy role that Morgan Freeman did in the film. So Hulk Colburn. So yeah, he did a lot, and unfortunately, we lost him just not too long ago, right here at the end of November, at the age of 66. So once again, it's been kind of a sad downer week for all of us that are huge fans of pop culture here, and we've lost again people that feel like my childhood is just slipping away one person at a time. So now that we have completed that, let's get into something fun. I believe that I am the only one of us on the screen tonight that has not seen Wakanda Forever, correct?
This is correct.
I think
yes,
so.
sir.
Well, don't spare your spoilers on my account because I've already read the plot at the IMDb / Wikipedia page. So let's dig into it. I want you guys to give your unvarnished, spoiler-filled review of Wakanda Forever. Goldar, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So I just want to say that this was the perfect film to close out Phase 4. What we've witnessed through this entire phase is literally how Marvel characters are dealing with loss and grief. So we started with, WandaVision, where Wanda was dealing with the loss of Vision from Infinity War, and also the realization that her kids don't exist. That was a bit of a loss as well. We moved into Black Widow, where it was actually the audience that lost Black Widow in Endgame. We were mourning her death as we were watching this film, which was supposed to be a prequel to the most recent run of Avengers films. We went into Shang-Chi, who ultimately lost his father at the end of the film, but kind of lost the relationship with him early on, but lost his mother as well, and how he was dealing with that. He was basically running from his family. We looked at Doctor Strange as well, where he essentially lost the relationship that he had with Christine. Is in the beginning of the film, he was attending her wedding, but also we were introduced to America Chavez, who lost her parents through the multiverse, has been looking for them. That tone kind of continued through a lot of the properties that we saw in Phase 4, and this was the big one, because not only did we lose T'Challa in the MCU, but we lost Chadwick Boseman as well. So the audience and the cast were grieving the loss of a beloved actor. So this movie was the perfect bookend to deal with that, because there were so many tributes to Chadwick Boseman throughout this film. It was very beautiful. I thought the music was excellent for the scenes. Now, I don't know necessarily that it's great just for listening to outside of the film, because it's probably a lot of sound effects, but a lot of it went perfectly with the scenes. Namor is an excellent, relatable villain. Tenoch Huerta played that role like nobody's business. Like, he was so good. He felt a lot like Killmonger in some ways, where he had a mission, he had an idea, he believed in it, and his people believed in it too. They believed in him. So it was very interesting. Who the new Black Panther is, we can get into spoilers in that, for a few minutes, but it's basically what you would expect it to be. But right. What we learned, in recent weeks, is that it almost wasn't that person. Yeah. It was almost two other people, which I speculated that they were going to have multiple Black Panthers in the film to pay tribute to Chadwick Boseman, because they didn't have the heart-shaped herb at the end of the first film. It was gone. He took the last one. So my assumption was that because Namor would be so strong, they would need more than one person to beat him. But we learned that wasn't quite the case. Wasn't fully the case. Riri Williams was amazing. It was nice to see her in this role. In hindsight, I really wish that we would have seen her in Iron Man 3 instead of Harley Keener, because I feel like that would have played to that much better in the direction that the MCU is going. Right. If we saw some young girl, try to help Iron Man, in the middle of Tennessee somewhere, and then all of a sudden we see her as an adult and she's attending MIT, and she built this Iron Man suit because she got to meet somebody that made an impression on her. Oh man, that would have been a lot better. I mean, I feel like that could have made. We all know how we feel about Iron Man 3. Yeah, pretty weak film. Yeah, but I feel like that could have made it better in retrospect. Now looking back on that, the performances for everybody in the film, everyone else in the film, were fantastic. If Angela Bassett does not get Best Supporting Cast Member at the Oscars for this, I don't know who will, because her performance was outstanding.
Well, and that's something I've heard. Like I heard some guy said, "Well, there's no Oscar-worthy performances in here," and like the other people he was on the chat with, I thought they were gonna like reach through the computer and like throttle the dude. He was like, "Dude, were you paying attention to Angela Bassett in this movie?"
Yeah, of all the performances in this film, hers was probably the best. I would say Letitia Wright's performance was really excellent. You could really feel her suffering, her pain, her grief through this film in a way that I don't really identify a lot of times with films. So like seeing her go through that, you almost forget, like, is she going through this in real life? Like, is she suffering a little bit in real life too?
Right.
Because she lost her Chadwick Boseman, a close friend of hers. So Ryan Coogler, again, the guy is a standout director. Like I hope this guy directs Secret Wars, because that's going to be an outstanding film if he does.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see who it is, but I love this film. I think everybody should see it, even if you're not really feeling the MCU lately, which I totally understand, because there have been a lot of misses in Phase 4, just a lot of misses. But this one was dead on target. So
that is Mr. good Narwhal. To hear, my friend. That's good to hear, because one of the things, and before I hand it over to Mr. Narwhal, one of the things we touched on when we did our panel at Retromania was not that Phase 4 has been very unevenly received. I mean, in the respect that it's not received the unified praise that Phases 1 through 3 has, but people can't even agree on what the good and bad shows are. That's the other thing. Like, for every 2 people you find that hate WandaVision, you find 3 people that love it, and like, I had a good time with Shang-Chi, but I know a lot of people that didn't. And, some people tell me Eternals is terrible and other people say it's great. I mean, that's the weirdest thing about this phase. And it's not even like the same people. Like, well, you hated everything. No, I liked WandaVision and Shang-Chi, but I couldn't stand Eternals. Or I liked Eternals. And, it's been nowhere have I seen a Marvel phase be this much divisive. You know what I mean? Like, people pretty much agree that Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor: The Dark World, they're kind of the weakest entries in the lot. So you're not going to get a lot of argument there. But compared to some of the stuff I've seen on TV, Iron Man 2 looks like it should have won an Oscar. But anyway, so Mr. Narwhal, what are your thoughts? Are you here to agree? Are you here to praise Wakanda Forever or to bury it?
I'm not here to be quite as effusive in my praise as Goldar was.
Okay.
I thought it was an excellent film. There were a few things that I didn't think were as good as Goldar. For example, I thought Namor, the guy who played him, Tenoch Huerta, his acting was good. I don't like the look, his look. Just the fact that I felt he was a bit too chubby to really be Namor. I sort of was looking for maybe a little bit more of a lithe swimmer's body for that character. But aside from that, I thought his performance was very good. The only other real, I guess, nitpick that I had with the film was I didn't feel like Letitia Wright, had really the gravitas that I was hoping for and looking for, and I think that's just because her character in the last two or so films that she was in, obviously Black Panther 1, and then Avengers Infinity War, she was more of the sidekick, more of the kid sister type of character, and I just didn't really feel that same gravitas that we had with Chadwick. And it could be that she'll grow into that role a little bit more, but for me it didn't quite hit a 10. I would say it was probably for me, her performance was more of a 7. But I absolutely agree with Goldar that Angela Bassett is by far the biggest shining star of the film. You know, her performance in this, you know, really elevated the film into something that was completely raw and real. I loved Winston Duke's M'Baku, and I wish we had seen a little bit more of him in the film. And I really liked how they had him sort of as the counterpoint slash mentor for Shuri. And I think in future iterations of the story, I'm looking forward to developing that relationship a little bit more. Um, but it's one of those things that with this film, you know, they had a completely unenviable task of trying to not only, you know, live up to the previous film in the series, but you know, trying to replace somebody with the charisma and the star power of Chadwick Boseman, you know, is a nigh impossible task. And I think they did a fairly good job with it. This is one that I would definitely say that if you're a fan of the MCU, or if you're a fan of just really good movies, go and check this one out. This one is probably one of the best films of the year.
Wow. Okay. So even though it sounds like you had a couple more issues with it than Goldar did, it sounds still a whole lot like you had a really good time with it.
Oh yeah. I would say, like I said, you know, in the grand scheme of things, my thoughts about them, about the things that, you know, didn't quite hit for me, they are truly nitpicks.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
they in no way sort of took me out of the film, or you know, left me, you know, leaving the film down, or you know, unsatisfied. You
Mm.
know, and really, to Goldar's point, you know, this film really is a perfect encapsulation of the overall theme of Phase Four. And you know, for the longest time, you know, we were all like, you know, what are they doing with Phase Four? We
Right.
don't understand where they're going, and we don't understand what the theme is. But now, in retrospect, I mean, it's extremely obvious what the theme is, and it's grief. You know, it's the grief of characters, you know, having lost part of themselves in the blip. It's the grief of characters having lost relatives and loved ones, or positions, or you know, a number of different things, and then having to rediscover themselves in that process. You know, I think that, you know, looking back on Phase Four, I think that a lot of the complaints that we had, and a lot of the concerns that people had, you know, at the time, you know, I understood the complaints, and I understood the comments. But now, you know, it's it's a hard sell trying to sell a series of stories about grief. You know, if they had come out from the
Yeah.
get-go and said, you
Yeah.
know, Phase Four is all about grief and it's all about suffering, I think people would have been like, "What? No, you know." But I think the way that they've given us this now, you know, it has sort of helped us to not only, you know, process the fact that, you know, not only are these franchises and these characters sort of moving on to that, you know, we've lost Iron Man, we've lost Black Widow, we've lost Captain America. It's looking like we've probably at this point really probably lost Thor as an ongoing character. You know, that all of these legacy characters from the Avengers have moved on, and you know, trying to live up to the success of phases 1 through 3, it was going to be an impossible task anyway. This is a really clever and highly creative way to sort of address that in a way that lets us sort of mourn what came before in phases 1 through 3, and now hopefully sets us up in phase 5 to move past it and really start to break new ground.
Okay, it's kind of funny you both brought this up, but Goldar was the first one I heard say it. We'd been saying that there was no narrative through line to phase 4, and I still believe that, but we weren't thinking about it thematically, I guess was a way to look at it.
Yes.
So,
correct.
Okay, so a question for both of you, and I'll go back to Goldar. One of the things that I have kind of settled on as I've reached a certain age, and my time is becoming more and more valuable to me. I've always said, if you have a movie that is north of 2 hours, you better have the story to support it. And so this was 2 hours and 40 minutes. Goldar, could they have trimmed a little bit, or was it just right?
I think 2 hours and 40 minutes did the movie justice.
Okay.
I feel like if they trimmed it anywhere, I really can't think of too many places that they could have trimmed the film, to be honest, because it was a journey for a lot of it. Like, there was the introduction of Namor, where he kind of showed up and made some threats, and we got to see Angela Bassett and how she's dealing with, the loss of her husband and her son. We went through and we got to see what Talokan was, which is where Namor is from. We got to learn more things about Val, which that was interesting. Well, I guess we should get into that in the spoiler section here next, because she made an appearance in the film. Surprise.
Oh wow! Okay.
We got to learn about how Shuri was attempting to produce a new heart-shaped herb, which we kind of knew that was coming. I mean, just from the trailers, you could tell. And, there's no way that they would not have that, because that's what gives the Black Panther the powers. And we see that there's a Black Panther in the trailer. We get to see how, Talokan attacks Wakanda, which we saw in the trailer, and how, the next Black Panther becomes developed, and then the final battle. So there's really not too many places that they could have truly trimmed the film to make it better. I'm glad that they made this longer, because Thor: Love and Thunder was like just under 2 hours, and that film really needed it to be longer.
Well, and we felt that way about Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness too.
That film needed to be longer too.
Yeah.
In fact, I feel like if we had spent more time looking at the different multiverses, like just even popping in and popping out, kind of like the way that they did sort of with everything everywhere all at once. I think that would have made a better multiverse film. And then Thor just needed to have more gore in it. Like, gore needed to be like this looming black cloud over the entire film instead of all these jokes that were in it.
Right.
And it needed to not be a comedy either.
Yeah. And from what I heard, they actually cut the film they cut a whole hour and a half off of the film.
Oh my God.
From what I understand. So, and we're never going to see that cut of the film.
No.
So I'm kind of curious, like, what that would have looked like. Would have been an hour and a half more of jokes, or would have been more dark?
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too, because now Chris Hemsworth has come out and pretty much admitted that the whole jokey nature of that last Thor movie was a misstep, and that he says that if he ever comes back and does Thor again, it's going to have to be reinvented again. It's going to have to be more serious and more back to what it sort of was for a while there, not quite so comedic. So
yeah, I mean they can make his character like a balance, like this, like he was kind of a big dumb Viking that just didn't have appropriate we'll say like manners or couth or whatever it was, like he drank the beer and was like, another. Well, it's like, what? That's funny. Like they should have kept that going instead of making him kind of like a little too like goofy, kind of like But anyway, Wakanda Forever. 2 hours and 40 minutes is perfect for the film.
Okay.
I think more. I think an MCU film needs at least 2.5 hours minimum to be able to tell a good story.
Yeah, and with this film, there isn't really a wasted moment of this film, in that, not only are we sort of following the things that go on with Shuri and with Namor and with Ramonda, but we're also getting really interesting subplots with Okoye. How she sort of is dealing with the loss of not only T'Challa, but she's also dealing with a series of failures in this film that has significant repercussions for her. And then you see sort of her reinvention as essentially a new superhero that comes on the scene that we hadn't even really considered was going to show up in this, and that's the Midnight Angel. And plus two, with the film, I kind of also would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Namor and his, some of his backstory and a little bit more, if you'll pardon the pun, deep dive into his history and his character. So I mean, it potentially, I think, could have even been slightly longer.
Okay. Wow. That's coming from two guys whose opinion I really, really trust. That's impressive. So I'm going to start the spoiler discussion with one of the things that I know about the movie, and kind of get your guys' opinion on it. So I had in my mind how they were going to deal with the death of T'Challa, okay, in the film. In my mind, the movie was going to open with Namor attacking Wakanda, and T'Challa is in the heat of it, man. I mean, it's a CGI Black Panther, but hey, the Black Panther suit / character is a CGI construct anyway, and we're maybe using repurposed dialogue that Chadwick's already recorded, and you've got Shuri, doing her thing, and at a critical moment, either because maybe he's down in the ocean or whatnot, the suit fails him. So Shuri's technology fails him at a crucial moment, and that's what causes his death. And of course, then that leads to her grief, and that leads to Wakanda's grief, and all that kind of stuff. That is not what happens in the movie. I heard what happened, but I mean, I heard it. Someone blurted it out. I wasn't even looking for a spoiler. Someone blurted it out, and then I'm like, what? And then I looked it up on Wikipedia, and this reads terrible. Okay, so reading it on a page and have someone said it made me feel like, well, that really is awful. So I'm going to kick it back to you guys who both really enjoyed this film. I don't know who wants to go first, but do you think they handled, having seen the film, I could tell you Moby Dick's about a, crazy dude chasing a fat fish, well, that doesn't sound good, but but you get into it and you experience the nuance of it, and you're like, it's a lot more to it than that. So seeing it on screen, how did you guys feel that play? I don't care who goes first.
I'll let Mr. Narwhal go first.
Sorry, did you want to go first, Goldar, you said?
No, I was going to say, I'll let you go first.
Okay, yeah. I think that the way that they did it is the only way that they could have done it, because here's the thing. If T'Challa had fallen in battle, if T'Challa had, sacrificed himself for the greater good, the story would have been completely different, because he would have been active in this. He would have been, a going out a fighter. But in this case, you find out that, sometimes people die, and sometimes, despite everything that you try and everything that you do, there's nothing that you can do, and you're powerless against it. And that is one of the biggest things that informs the film, is that it wasn't for a greater good. It wasn't for a reason. It was a completely random, senseless thing that literally can happen to anyone. And that's part of what makes it as real as it is, because we're used to superheroes fighting the bad guys and they get knocked down or they get killed, and it's like, oh well, it's a superhero thing, but no, this is real and it's raw, and they actually infer that T'Challa had been sick for quite some time that we never knew, just like
right.
Chadwick Boseman was sick for quite some time. He was sick when he filmed the first Black Panther movie. He knew
right.
that he had this, and he knew that he was going through this, and that really informs everything that you see in this movie.
Okay, Goldar.
Yeah, I agree. I would say, the first theme of Phase 4 is grief, but the second theme I think is powerlessness. Because all of these characters at some point or another deal with a situation where they can't use their powers to save somebody. Like they just lose them, and they have to reconcile that no matter how powerful that they are, or how smart or proficient or cunning or whatever you want to say, no matter what, sometimes you just lose people, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's the crux of the frustration that these characters are dealing with in this phase, is that no matter how many people that they save, sometimes there are people that they still cannot save.
Okay.
So I think that was a good introduction for the film.
Yeah, because just to be clear, again, spoiler, that is like how the film opens, correct?
Yes, that is how the film opens. They open it where T'Challa's on his deathbed. He's dying, and Shuri's trying to work out some combination of the heart-shaped herb and his blood to figure out something that she can do to try to save him. And then in the midst of it, he passes. So I think, just like Mr. Narwhal was saying, I think that's probably the best way that they could have done it.
Okay.
Because if he had, I feel like if he had died in battle, it probably would have been a little bit too cliche. Just because we've seen that a lot in superhero movies.
And you always have the thing of, no matter how they chose to do that, and I was conscious of this, when I had my head canon of how he was going to go out in a blaze of glory. No matter what you do, it's like, well, he got out of something tougher than that. Come on, black people. No matter, there would have been 10 people out of 100, no matter what, a different 10, no matter what you did, said, oh, he could have gotten away from that. Or, just like with Iron Man or anybody else, like, oh, Iron Man's beat something stronger than that before. It would be just, no matter what they did, there would have been a portion of the fan base that was just didn't think it was satisfying. Felt that, because the one thing you didn't want to do was have him fall in battle like a chump. That's the one thing you don't want to do. And if you can't get, and probably in the writing room, if you couldn't get a good consensus, and maybe this was their plan from the beginning, but if you couldn't get a good consensus on what epic thing would actually take down Black Panther, well, then let's just do this. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but maybe that's the right way to go.
Yeah, it's just. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say it's interesting because originally the plot for the film, when they were still expecting Chadwick Boseman to be around, was going to be T'Challa dealing with the fact that he was gone for 5 years, and that essentially the country of Wakanda had sort of moved on from his presence, and coming to terms with that loss and that grief. So I mean, this film was pretty much always going to be about grief.
Oh wow!
Level, to really, I think, drive that point home. It's just that once Chadwick Boseman passed, it really, I think, crystallized the direction of the film and exactly where they were going with this.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think there was a huge movement online for people to recast T'Challa, and yeah. I think I get where they're coming from, because they feel like they didn't have enough time with a prominent black superhero as powerful and strong and intelligent and prideful as Black Panther, as T'Challa.
Right.
And the audience felt like they were robbed by Disney that they didn't recast this character.
Yeah.
But, we have to think about, like, we lost a living, breathing person that made a huge impact on that role. So for anybody else to step into that role after the fact, it would be very difficult, I think, for people to accept, because they'd always compare the second actor to the first one. And if he didn't exceed or live up to at least the performance, people would just throw it away 100%. The cast and crew working with that second person, there would always, I'm not saying that they wouldn't be welcoming to that person, but you always have that thought in your mind, what's the chemistry going to be like with those people?
Yeah.
Like, how's it going to play on screen? And you just don't know. So I think,
well, and go ahead.
I was going to say, I think this was the right direction to go with letting the character pass. If there's opportunity in the future for Marvel to write a story in which they bring a Black Panther back, which I hope they do, via Secret Wars or whatever they do after rebooting the universe, because I'm assuming they're going to reboot the MCU here in the next few years.
Yeah.
There's opportunity at that time to bring us a new Black Panther and tell different stories.
Well, and when you think about it too, essentially, what they've done with the film, and again, we're getting into spoilers here with the mid-credit scene in this case, that we find out that Nakia and T'Challa actually have a son who is also named T'Challa. So, that sort of gives us our in for the eventual recasting of T'Challa, and it's just basically going to be T'Challa Jr. And that will essentially let us then have a new Black Panther that is called T'Challa, who is continuing on that family tradition. And I would not be surprised if we saw Black Panther 3 really involving T'Challa Jr. essentially stepping up and taking on the mantle of his father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's an easy way to segue into it, that pays respect and tribute to both the character and the actor, but also gives us another Black Panther that's a strong, prominent Black male figure that the audiences are hungry for.
Because I was, dude, I might as well have been out in the front of the charge for recast T'Challa. I mean, for a lot of the reasons you said, like, man, young Black men, young Black boys, this was their hero, and now you've got that. I mean, granted, it was no one's fault that it was taken away, but I looked at it from my perspective of, well, how many Batmans have we had? How many James Bonds have we had? And we got George Lazenby because Sean Connery just didn't want to do it anymore. I mean, to me, that's a harder sell than hey, this, we were going to make this movie with this person, but it became impossible. So, I mean, I looked at it from that perspective, but again, whose argument's right? They both are, I mean, but with you guys having seen the film and feel like it was the right move, then again, that's reassuring for me. So.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that the MCU is different than some of those other ones because they allow for the universe to start back over when they recast new people, whereas the MCU is the same universe moving forward. So when you don't have somebody there, it's kind of weird. And I think that's fascinating that we've had very few recastings in the MCU.
Right.
We've only had Edward Norton and Terrence Howard that were recasted so far.
And Harrison Ford, but again, that's because William Hurt passed away.
And we're gonna see, and that one's a really odd one. I'm really surprised that they're doing that.
The only thing I could think of is kind of like Rhodey where Rhodey was at that part of the MCU. Thunderbolt Ross wasn't a pivotal. I mean, he was in the Incredible Hulk, but hell, everybody in that movie's been recast. The official recasting of that movie's been complete. In many ways, like, I would say that the General Ross was not the character I guess that they're going to have him become. You know, I mean, now if Don Cheadle dropped out now, like, whoa, hey, you know, you know what I mean? Like that'd be a harder sell, I think, than just, you know, because Terrence Howard, and I like Terrence Howard, but apparently it was more of an interpersonal thing. You know, I thought he did great, but I wasn't like attached to him in the movie yet. You know, if he'd put on that suit, then maybe. But you know, but again, it also helps I freaking love Don Cheadle too. So
yeah. And then I think the Warriors 3. I think Zachary Levi. He was recast as part of the Warriors 3. That's really about it. Yeah. Everybody else has reprised their roles, which is incredible. So that, you know, that says one thing about the studio trying to get people to come back, but also B, like, you know, people willing to come back to be in something.
Oh yeah.
But I want to kind of switch gears too and talk about more spoiler stuff.
Okay, absolutely, go for it.
So we got a chance to see Val, like I was mentioning during the film, and we got to see Everett Ross again, which was really odd that we haven't seen Everett Ross since. Since
the first one,
since the first Black Panther. I don't remember if we saw him in the funeral scene in Endgame. I don't think he was there.
I don't remember.
I don't think he was either.
I don't think he was. So we really haven't seen this character in quite some time, like 4 years. So it was cool to have him back, although he played a very minor role in this film. I wish he would have played maybe a little bit of a bigger role, but it's fine that he wasn't, given the direction that they were going with the film and who was involved and all of that.
He doesn't end up being a villain, does he?
No, he does not.
Okay,
but we
good.
find out that he used to be married to Val.
Oh,
at one point.
Nice.
It's his ex-wife. That's very interesting. And that we also find out that Val is deputy director of the CIA.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't know who she was or who she was working for, but we knew that she was a very powerful figure and that she was manipulating people.
Right.
And recruiting people. So now that puts things in greater context, of a little bit better context rather, of what's going on behind the scenes after seeing her appear in Falcon Winter Soldier. So it was basically a big show that the government was disavowing the new Captain America, John Walker.
Yeah.
And that through the back door, they were rehiring him as the U.S. agent.
Yeah.
So it kind of puts into context that, you can't trust the federal government. They'll say one thing, but then behind the doors, they're doing something else.
Wow, imagine that.
So, imagine that. We also find out that she, later she manipulated Yelena Belova, the current Black Widow, into trying to kill Hawkeye.
Oh, yeah.
So that's an interesting piece, that the federal government is trying to kill Hawkeye.
Yeah.
So now you're like, okay, so the government is kind of trying to kill the Avengers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so from that
that's
implication,
a big deal.
Yeah. So from that implication, let's unpack that a minute. They basically made him sign the Sokovia Accords. Okay, you basically you sign the Sokovia Accords or you go to jail. All right. Mm-hmm. So there's that part of it, but yet at the same time they're putting together. It's obvious now they're putting together the Thunderbolts, which is like the most despicable group of people you could recruit. I mean, it's. I won't say that they're Marvel's Suicide Squad, but they're one notch above them, And it's like, all right, so what does this mean? Like, what? That's my thing is, what does this mean? This is interesting.
So what this ultimately means? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll let Mr. Narwhal input.
No, actually, go for it, dude. Go for it.
I was going to say, so what this really means is that the government attempted to try to control superheroes with the Sokovia Accords, and it failed. So now they need to build their own team.
Yeah. They have a sort of the U.S. sanctioned Avengers that basically are around. And one of the sort of little secret plot points that was dropped during the She-Hulk show was that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed. So now, you've got more of a free-for-all superheroes, which really gives the U.S. government an impetus to basically create their own team that they have control of, that they're going to be able to get to essentially do their dirty work. And if you're looking to do something like that, you want to basically take out your competition, and at this point the competition are people like the Avengers, and
Wow.
really, if you're going to start taking out the Avengers, just looking at it logically, okay, the only Avengers that you have left, or the only original Avengers you have left, are Hawkeye and the Hulk.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to go after first? You're probably not going to start off with Hulk. You're going to start off with the guy whose power set comes from Dick's Sporting Goods. I mean,
yeah.
it just makes sense to start there.
Hey, poor Hawkeye. He didn't get any respect, man. Damn.
You don't get no respect. Yeah.
He's the Rodney Dangerfield of the Avengers.
Yeah.
And
So
it's interesting too because I think that sort of this is going to be a sort of subplot that we're going to see throughout the next few movies, and probably through the rest of the upcoming Phase 5 and
This feeds right into Secret Invasion and Secret Wars. I mean, for sure.
Especially when you consider too that I'm willing to bet you a nickel that you're going to see sort of a dovetailing of the stuff that Val is doing with the Thunderbolts, and what you're seeing with the sort of minor subplot of damage control. That's happening because that's one of the sort of subplots that you've seen in a lot of the Disney Plus TV shows, is that damage control is essentially trying to become the group that is policing and controlling all of the new powered people that are coming out. You have them showing up significantly in Hawkeye, you've got them in She-Hulk, you've got them in Miss Marvel. And I've heard a rumor that they are going to be the primary antagonist force of the Armor Wars movie.
That would make sense. That would 100% track and make sense.
yes, because what we heard in Spider-Man: No Way Home, we heard that in the background. It was a quick clip that Stark Industries, a lot of their stuff was seized.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
By the government. They were very quick to like smooth over that. They're like, oh yeah, Stark Industries is items have been seized, and I'm like, wait, what is that? And then they go back to Spider-Man's plot, and I'm like, hold on,
yeah,
what is happening? What is happening?
Well, and I honestly, I'm so jazzed about that because that means we might get to see Justin Hammer again.
we might get to see, yeah.
Oh my God.
I think a lot of what's going to happen too. We're going to see. I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of this play out in Captain America: New World Order. And then it's going to go into the Thunderbolts, and I'm wondering if we're going to see Sam Wilson face off against Bucky.
Do we know? Do we know if which is coming out first, Armor Wars or Captain America: New World Order? Do we know?
Captain America is coming out first.
All right. Okay. So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
yeah, and then we're going to see, from what I understand, we're going to see War Machine in Secret Invasion, and then we're going to see him again in Armor Wars.
Okay,
the film
that makes sense. Yeah, and honestly, I'm glad they've made that a movie. I've been much more impressed with their little one-shot things that they've been doing. Like the Guardians Christmas special and the Werewolf on It. Man, they're 2 for 2 on those things. And they seem to have just the right length, and they seem to know exactly what they're doing. I think they need to focus on that. I mean, granted, that doesn't get people to tune in to Disney Plus for 6 to 9 to 12 weeks, but neither did Andor. And I liked Andor, but didn't pull the ratings in. So, Mr. Narwhal, you got anything you want to talk about, spoiler-wise?
No, nothing jumps to mind. I think we've pretty much covered all of the major points in there.
Well, we didn't talk about who the new Black Panther is.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I mean, I think if you step through the trailer, if you play some fancy freeze frames with the trailer, you can probably figure it out. But go ahead and let us in on it.
Yeah. So there's two things here. So there is no Doctor Doom in this film.
Boo.
No traces of that. But we do find out that Shuri is the new Black Panther. And this comes directly out of the comic books.
Right.
They made the character the new Black Panther, and we find out during the film that she's trying to create a synthetic version of the heart-shaped herb, and she's struggling to do it. And the only way that she's capable or able to do it is by a bracelet that Namor gives her that's based on the herb that people in Talokan take to be able to breathe underwater. So that's fascinating that she was able to create a synthetic heart-shaped herb based on another herb. So I'm kind of curious as to if there's any new side effects or new powers or anything like that she may get in the future. But so far now, she is the new Black Panther. And interestingly, also, M'Baku is now the king of Wakanda.
Oh, that's cool.
And I like that a lot. I do.
I had a feeling that he would probably take over as king, but I didn't know how they were going to approach it. But they basically just kind of put it in there at the end that, hey, he's going to do the ritual challenge, and if nobody challenges him, he's going to be the king. And it is what it is. Like he's a fascinating character. In the comic books, if I remember right, he was a Black Panther antagonist or a villain at some point.
He was a villain.
But they've made his character in such a way that he is an interesting protagonist and a fun one too. So I think it was a good change that what they did with the characters. I thought maybe they were going to make him a Black Panther as well as Nakia a Black Panther as well. I even thought they were going to make Ramonda a Black Panther temporarily for a point. But they just made Shuri the new Black Panther. The final fight is pretty brutal between her and Namor. I was surprised because I was like, is this still PG-13 film? Like,
oh, wow.
Like as rough as it got for a few minutes there. I was like, wow, I don't think Disney has gone this kind of brutal with a fight before.
Well, they got Deadpool 3 in the pipeline, so they better start gearing up.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting too because they go through all the different sort of phases of grief with this, but one of the ones that sort of really takes hold with Shuri is that anger and that desire for vengeance for the fact that, another spoiler here, there's another big death in the film that really drives the second act, and that is when Namor kills Queen Ramonda.
Oh, I was afraid that was going to happen.
Yeah,
I was afraid that was going to happen.
And in fact, Ramonda sacrifices herself in order to save Riri Williams. And when that happens, that really drives Shuri to do whatever she has to do in order to get vengeance for her mother. And it's really telling that when she finally does succeed in recreating the heart-shaped herb, she takes the herb and she basically goes to the ancestral plane. You would think that she would see maybe Ramonda, there, or hopefully she might see T'Challa.
Well, yeah, I kept thinking if they were going to do a CGI T'Challa, that might be where it was.
Yeah, but what happens is she actually sees Killmonger.
Okay, well, I'd heard he was in it briefly, but I didn't know how they were going to do that. I figured it was a flashback or something. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the reason that she sees Killmonger is because, she is going down that same path of vengeance that he was going down, wanting to make others suffer for, the things that have happened to them. and she has to come to grips with what's happened with Namor and her mother and her country and all of the people that that look up to her that have perished in all of these battles. And she chooses to make a different decision than Killmonger did, and that is sort of the moment that she really moves beyond that desire for vengeance, much in the same way that T'Challa moves beyond his desire for vengeance when his father got killed in
Civil War. Yeah.
Civil War.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. They very much mirrored that. And I loved that. It was such a callback. And just like I was saying earlier, I love a fucking revenge story. Like when that came into play, I'm like, and that fight was so brutal. And it got to a point where I was like, on one end, I was like on the edge of my seat. I was like, kill him, kill him, kill him. But the other part of me was like, don't kill him. Like you got to be better than this.
Yeah.
And there was that that moment where like she heard Rwanda's voice that said, "Show him who you are," and she didn't. She stopped at that point. And it was like
she did show him who she was, and she was better than him.
Okay, all right, damn, I got to go see this now.
Yeah, it was. Oh man, right. that was an amazing scene. That was an amazing scene. Gave me chills. Yeah, so this movie this is what Phase 4 should have been through the entire time.
A lot of people have said that. A lot of people have said, why couldn't you have done, like, between Spider-Man No Way Home, which, and again, is about grief in many different ways. You've got, I'm not going to worry about spoilers for a movie that's been out as long as that. You got the fact that he has to give up people knowing all the things that came from him being able to hang with the Avengers and all that kind of stuff. He has to give all that up in order to keep his remaining friends / family safe, and he has to grieve the loss of Aunt May, and it's also about Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man dealing with his grief. Damn, okay, this is just occurring to me like live on the air. You're watching the Geek Boy brain work. So that's really interesting, but why couldn't we have gotten, more Spider-Man, Shang-Chi in this instead of She-Hulk twerking?
Well, and when you look at like Thor: Love and Thunder, you can see that they were trying to weave those narrative threads in there as well, especially when you have not only that Thor is sort of grieving the loss of everything that he's lost, but actively grieving the fact that Jane Foster is not only dying, but she actually does sacrifice herself and dies at the end of the film.
Yeah.
I think the fact that the whole thing was told basically from the viewpoint of Korg in a very jokey way really cut the legs out from under what that story could have been and should have been.
Okay, so do you guys think that was a post-production edit? Like, you need to cut an hour out of this movie. All right, we'll just have Korg be the narrator. Do you think that was a?
I think it was mostly because not only with Korg being the narrator, but I've actually seen a few deleted scenes that really lead me to think that they were going in much different directions with the film. The biggest one is the fact that that we've had deleted scenes with Thor and Zeus talking, where basically Zeus actually gives Thor the Thunderbolt so he can go and fight his battle, instead of the whole jokey thing with Zeus being sort of the lecher drunk guy and taking his clothes off and all the stuff that you see that happens in Omnipotent City. Much different feel and much different tone to those deleted scenes.
Man, at some point, well, never mind. That's a whole different discussion. We're not going to get off on that. So, any other thoughts on Wakanda Forever before we move on?
Man, just this. I feel like this film makes up for a lot of what we missed out on in Phase 4. Like, I feel so satisfied with this film that I'm willing to forgive a lot of the low points.
Oh, wow. All right.
In Phase 4.
Not only that, this film retroactively makes Phase 4 better. in that now you can see what they were trying to do, and you can understand some of the decisions that they made in the films that now are in retrospect. It's like, okay, that's what they were meaning to say, and that's why they did these films the way they did, and that's why they made some of these decisions that, you know, they didn't necessarily land the way that they maybe hoped or the way that we expected them to land. But now, you know, looking back and rewatching some of these Phase 4 films, I have a much different point of view now when I'm watching them, and I'm sort of seeing, you know, the moments of grief and the moments of mourning that runs through the entirety of Phase 4, and it makes it better.
You know, it's funny you should say that, because that's not unheard of, because I feel like Avengers Endgame makes Thor: The Dark World a better film. And so, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. So, Goldar, any last minute thoughts before we move on?
I just want to echo just what Mr. Narwhal was saying. Like, this makes Phase 4 much better, going back and seeing what they were trying to do with it and what they were trying to do with each individual character. So now when I go back and do a rewatch of it, I will probably enjoy it more than I did the first time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now I've got to see it. I got to see it now. I mean, I was planning on seeing it anyway. I was just trying to carve out the time. So, all right.
I will say, this movie made $300 million in 1 weekend, or I'm sorry, 3 days.
Yeah.
And Black Adam made $300 million in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Just for perspective.
Yeah. And you know, and that's something else too. There, since it didn't make as much as the first Black Panther, you know, a lot of naysayers are trying to point to it that it has been a quote unquote failure. Okay. Well, the first Black Panther was also not 2 hours and 40 minutes. You have to factor that in, that you can't have as many screenings of a 2 hour and 40 minute film as you can of a 2 hour and 15 minute film. You know, so there's that as well. So,
well, and to be fair too, you know, this film is a much different tone than the original Black Panther, right? You know, for example, I enjoyed going back and rewatching the original Black Panther because it's a really fun movie. In all honesty,
it's a romp. Yeah,
I can't really say that I would enjoy necessarily going back and rewatching Black Panther 2 in the same way, because it's a much different film. It's a much more mature film, and it's a much more somber film. You know, where it's like, literally walking out of the film, I felt like I felt when I had walked out of Saving Private Ryan or or some of those films, where it's like, you know, you feel mood, and you feel like you've experienced a bit of catharsis, and you've experienced, you know, very, very complex filmmaking. It's not a popcorn film, and it's not a casual film. I mean, it's a very serious. I sort of think that this may actually be a Best Picture contender at some point.
So according to Wikipedia, it's earned, and I don't know when the last time was they updated this. Retrieved December 1st, so this is as of today. It has made $682 million worldwide. So, it's probably in profitability right now based on its budget. But it's gonna get there for sure. Is it gonna make $1 billion like the first Black Panther? I don't know, because that Mr. Narwhal touched on something, and I'm gonna ask Goldar, and then I promise we're gonna get to another topic, folks. But so on the rewatchability scale, on a scale of 1 to 10, where is it for you, Goldar?
Oh, this is tough, because it's a heavy film.
Yeah.
It is a heavy film. I would say if I rewatch it, it's probably not going to be super often, because you take it in so much when you watch it on one viewing. I would say it's good for, you know, rewatching probably 2-3 times a year maximum.
Wow. Okay.
But you have to be in the state of mind for it, because it is a heavy film. They deal with a lot of, you know, loss and grief and frustration and revenge with it, and those tend to be darker and less settling emotions that people want to deal with.
Right.
So you have to be kind of in the right mood to watch this film in rewatching it. But it's very dramatic. It's very excellent. Yeah, it's rewatchable for sure.
Okay. Mr. Narwhal, where is it at on your rewatch? I think you kind of already answered that, but just to make sure we get it, what's your rewatchable
Yeah,
number on
yeah.
it?
Yeah, definitely looking at this for a rewatchability scale on a scale of like 1 to 10. I would probably put this at honestly maybe a 3 or 4, just because it is a very serious film.
Okay.
It's not one that I would necessarily, if I was flipping through TV and saw on HBO, I don't know that I would necessarily stop and rewatch it. You really do have to be in the right frame of mind.
Okay. So, I kind of that's what I've told people about Joker. I think it's an amazing, powerful film that I don't care if I ever see again. I mean, I like Joker, but I have no desire. I have no desire to rewatch it. So, do you think that hurts its box office ultimately? I mean,
I think
682 million. I mean, but I mean, do you think that's going to keep it from hitting that Black Panther $1 billion mark?
Well, yes and no, because
Okay.
we live in a post-COVID world, so people are not going to the theaters the same way
Yeah.
that they were. Like this would probably be $1 billion film had we not had COVID happen.
Yeah.
good chance of it, yeah.
But at the same time, too, Black Panther, the first one, was very rewatchable because
Yeah.
dealt with heavy themes, but they weren't so um, moving the way that this one is.
Right. It was done in that sort of MCU phase 1 through 3 way, like Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Narwhal, you think this hurts its box office or keeps it from the $1 billion club?
I think it probably does long term. Yeah.
Okay.
Just because it doesn't necessarily have that same cachet, and it's also not very kid friendly as well.
Oh, okay.
We're
Yeah.
talking about a lot of very serious themes here.
I
And
have
while
heard
there
that.
is,
I have heard people say, I don't want to take my kid to see this," or my kid
yeah,
didn't want to see this
it
again," or
it
something
is a
like that.
very serious
Yeah.
film, and not because it's like gory or
Oh,
not
no, no,
because
no.
it's
Yeah.
dark or anything like that. It's just a very serious, dramatic piece. That is not the fun and joy that you got watching that first Black Panther film.
I see. So it's not kid friendly, huh? So, you know what else isn't kid friendly?
Really.
You know what else isn't kid friendly, Mr. Narwhal?
What's that?
When you give a bear a bunch of cocaine. That's not that's not kid friendly.
That is a maxim that I have lived by for many years.
Yeah, well, apparently, this trailer that you told me about that we're going to screen right now, Cocaine Bear. That's a real movie, folks. This is not something that the late lamented director we talked about earlier made. This is Elizabeth Banks' new film, and I'm just going to say it. This thing looks batshit insane. I'm watching this trailer going, okay, I mean, this is like Great Outdoors. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, what are we doing here? So this is based on a true story, I understand. And,
loosely based.
Loosely based. The situation was real, but I'm assuming that all the characters are fake. And you've got, it got Ray Liotta in I assume his last performance that he ever did.
Yep.
And then I'm watching this bear eat a brick of cocaine, man. Like, what the hell? So, what do you think about this damn movie, dude?
This is one of those trailers that literally about all you can say out of it is what the hell?
Yeah.
This is and for anyone who's interested in watching the trailer, it is definitely a red band trailer. It is full
yes.
of gore and potty mouth language. So don't necessarily sit your 3-year-old down in front of this film to watch it. But yeah, this definitely looks like it's going to be the inheritor of the Snakes on a Plane award for best film title and best sort of high concept. And again, this is based on a true story. The fact that this essentially happened where a shipment of cocaine got chucked out of an airplane and a bear found it and ate it. Actually did happen in real life. In real life, the bear pretty much promptly dropped dead from a drug overdose. But what if it didn't? What if it And what if it was like a Florida bear, that goes around and decides to go all, crazy on people? And that is really, I think, the selling point of the film. I mean, just the creative kills that you're getting out of this, and it's definitely a horror comedy, So this
you think?
This is not a film that takes itself too seriously, from what you can tell.
Yeah.
But also, from what I've seen from the trailer, this has some real horror chops. This has some really inventive ways to not only kill people, but to really, sort of just embrace this insane premise and take it as far as they can.
Well, I just hope that it leans. I mean, the one thing I hate is when I see a trailer like this and the movie doesn't like they show all the best stuff in the trailer and the movie doesn't lean into its premise all the way. If it can do that, they'll be great. Goldar, have you seen this thing till now?
I heard about it, but I didn't. I thought it was going to be like super B film. Like what was it? What was the one about the tire that was killing people?
Rubber.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like Rubber, or what's the one, the bed that kills people?
The bed that kills people.
Deathbed.
Deathbed, yeah.
Excuse us.
I thought it was going to be like one of those films until I found out who was involved with it. Like, it was Carrie Russell. I'm like, Carrie Russell? Like, this seems like a really odd film for her to pick, because, like, you hardly see Carrie Russell, right?
I know.
The last time I saw her, she was in another horror movie called Antlers. And then it said Ray Liotta was in it, and I was like, "What the hell, Ray Liotta? That's weird." Like I'm surprised he would do something like this, like because he's usually like a serious, dramatic actor. The last time I saw him, he was in, I think it was the Gucci film, House of Gucci.
Yeah.
I think he was in that.
Yeah.
And then
you got Aaron Reich in this. You got Jesse Tyler Ferguson in this.
Well, Alden Ehrenreich. Okay. All right, that probably tracks. I mean,
and I haven't seen him in anything since Solo.
I know. That's what he's probably like. Did the check clear? Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, O'Shea Jackson Jr. is in this. Ice Cube's son.
Yeah.
That was kind of on, and then to see Elizabeth Banks is directing this of all things. This is a lady from the Hunger Games. She played Rita Repulsa in the Power Rangers movie. Yeah, that Elizabeth Banks. Zach and Mira make a porno. Yeah. Elizabeth Banks. Yeah. So I'm. This is like a really bizarre film to have so many stars like involved in.
I know. This is something that we will get drunk and see on a bet.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, go on, let's go see that bear shit.
Yeah. This. The number of people involved in this.
I know.
Like the star power and probably genius that's going to go into this. Reminds me of films like Slither.
I hope so. Yeah, I really do. Yeah.
It reminds me of James Gunn's
like
Slither.
Less like movie 43,
Oh yeah. I saw the trailer the other day and I was like, wow, this has got a lot of people, good people involved in this. This might actually be like a watchable film.
I know.
Compared to before, because I was thinking this is going to be in the same lines of like just what I was mentioning before, and like Sharknado and like, what's the spider volcano in Arachnocano or something like that? There's a spider that shoots like volcano, like lava or something. Just really stupid shit like that. Yeah,
Crossful versus Robo Vampire. Yeah,
just really stupid shit like that. So I thought it was going to be this, and no, this might be a fun film to watch. So
I'm sure it's still going to be stupid shit, but it can be good stupid shit.
Evil Dead 2 is stupid, but it's a fun watch. I mean, my God. And absolutely. It's something I noticed as I ran the trailer this second time. I also noticed that Universal is releasing this. This is not released under one of their little B indie movie banners, or like Fox used to have Searchlight and you've got A24. No, Universal's like, we're putting our logo on this. So I'm like, all right.
But to be fair though, like when you see like Fox Searchlight or A24, it's some serious shit though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, but like when the Universal thing came up, I was like, oh, this is real.
Yeah,
like, this is not a joke.
Yeah.
Like you think it would be like some real, like just like you were saying, some like super like small like indie like production company
Yeah.
that's putting this out, or distribution company like that's owned by Universal.
Yeah.
That's just like, yeah, this is our little like, you know, dumpy films that we put out to like try to make some money on the DVD market.
Yeah. Oh, and believe me, man, there is no absence of that. Of all these big studios that own these B labels that like, hey, just make some schlock that we can put on Cinemax, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. And you know, to be honest with you, I feel like that's the future for streaming.
Probably, yeah. Oh,
like make some of these like little weird films that like these little like small production studios can make for like almost no dollars, $0 to make this film. Yeah. And then it's on your streaming platform, and then you get people signing up to watch it.
Well, you know, and if you can make them good, and look at Jason Blum, like Blumhouse, man, he
A23. I mean, look at the stuff they do.
They're and every dime they spend's on the screen, you know. So I haven't seen the budget for this thing, but I'm sure it's not high. But especially, well, it depends on how many hero pink jumpsuits you had to buy Kerry Russell. You know, for the various scenes and whatnot. But yeah, so that who knows if this is gonna be good, but I'll darn you, that'll be a drunk watch, I'm sure, and I'm sure I'll have a damn good time in it. Let's move on to something else that dropped today. This is our trailer park section, folks, and I'm calling it Indiana Jones and the Worst Title Ever. We got the first trailer for Indiana Jones 5, which has been revealed to be the Dial of Destiny. The trailer looks pretty good. Actually, it looks really good. The thing that scares me is I've heard some reports coming out of some of the test screenings, and it seems to pretty much track along with what has been said about the test screenings, and every one of these test screenings has been a disaster. And it's all about the ending. They do not like the ending of it. I've heard that, you know, there's rumors been circulating around that it's a time travel story. If you watch this trailer closely, you can see hints of that. We did know from the behind the scenes pics that leaked that they were going to de-age Harrison Ford, and we just saw some of that, and it looks really good. I'm going to give them that. But like the title, guys, come on, like, you know, Raiders of the Lost Ark, that means adventure. You know, the Temple of Doom is intense and all that, and even the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull invokes mystery and adventure, and the Dial of Destiny implies he's chasing for a golden bar of soap. I'm like, it couldn't have been the Hand of Destiny, or, you know, the Dial of Destiny.
I'm with you on that. I think the Hand of Destiny is
a spinner, right? Like,
yeah. I'm with you on that. I think a Hand of Destiny would be a better working title.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
I was gonna say, you know, time travel movies, I get it. Like, those are really hard to do because, like, most time travel movies end in, you know, two ways. You know, branched reality, and there's multiple realities, or they fixed everything that they fucked up, you know, by going back and time traveling in the beginning of the film. So it's kind of like, what else are you gonna really do with this that hasn't been done in, like, Back to the Future, Avengers Endgame, Everything Everywhere All at Once, you know, these other types of time travel multiverse type films. Looper,
probably the best film that the Antichrist Ryan Johnson ever made.
12 Monkeys, stuff like that.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So
Hot Tub Time Machine.
Yeah. So I mean, again, just watching the trailer does its job. It looks really good. I love the gag at the end of the trailer. You know, that's a play on the whole street market thing, you know, from the first one, and then the thing from the second one. But still, I just that guys, the test screenings have not. The reports leaking out of the test screenings are not good. I guess they've shot. Oh, go ahead.
Well, you know, we're really, you know, this pretty much tracks with how the rest of it's gone, right? You know, we had the first three films that were really good, and then it's like, oh crap, where do we go now? We go Aliens, and then after you go Aliens, really, there's only one place that you can go, and that's freaking time travel. You know? I mean, you know, we've already gone to space essentially, and you know, time travel is the next logical step for this thing. And
But he didn't go into space in a car. I mean, come on.
no, he went to a nuclear bomb explosion in a refrigerator.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you, if you thought he nuked the fridge before, I've just got a sneaky suspicion that this one potentially may top it all.
So much like Endgame and Black Panther Wakanda Forever, are you saying this is going to retroactively make Kingdom of Skull a better movie?
If they even acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah.
If they even acknowledge it. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the fact that they're bringing in his goddaughter means like they're totally like, yeah, we're not going to even address the whole mutt and his son thing. Like, we're just going to ignore that shit.
That's not even going to be touched.
Well, Shai did that to himself. I mean, he basically, when he went nuts, he pretty much forfeited that. But
so now that we know that Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character is his goddaughter, who do you think her father actually is?
Oh, it's Marcus Brody.
That's exactly what I
think
too.
Yeah, it's well, and that's because I think I read somewhere her character's last name is Brody. Like it was on some article or something I read. Her name was Helena Brody. I think it's Helena Brody, maybe. And he's the only British character in the lore. So yeah, and it was good to see Sala again, but yeah, I just don't know. I've heard they've shot 7 different endings for this thing.
Wow.
And the last one that they screened got tested the highest, and it tested at a 35%.
I know. And we're saying out of 100%?
Yeah. Like, wow, and my thing is, there was 6 other endings that tested lower than that. But what I don't know is, like, was the audience on the ride until, like, did the ending just shit the bed? You know, like, that's what I'd like to know is, like, was the rest of the film like a 85, and then you got the ending, and it's like, really? You know, because we've all been to those movies where you're really on this ride, it's doing real good, and all of a sudden, like, what the shit is this? You know, like, so that's what I cannot find anywhere, any kind of reference anywhere, is if people were having a good time with the movie up until the end. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's really tough.
Yeah.
Because James Mann,
like, you know, they're really just trying to milk these IPs for all they're worth, and you know, maybe they're trying to do this last one to potentially set up, you know, Helena Brody as the new Indiana Jones.
Oh, for sure they are.
Spin her off into her own thing. But again, just like we saw with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, you know, if the movie itself isn't good that you want to launch these characters from, doesn't matter. You're not launching that shit.
Right. And if the character, much like in Crystal Skull, if the character doesn't play well to the audience, I mean, you know, that's not going to happen either. I mean, George Lucas is still crushed that he's not making his 15th Jar Jar spinoff movie at this point.
Well, and the other tough part too is James Mangold is pretty decent director.
I know. It's why I kind of like, I trust him. I mean, I looked at his resume and, like, he doesn't have very many misfires on there. You know, I mean, let me take a look here.
I mean, I don't know how anybody feels about Kate and Leopold.
Well, I've not seen that, so I can't say a whole lot.
I saw it. It wasn't that great.
Okay.
Shugal, she watches that sometimes. I'm like, you picked the one Hugh Jackman film that's like not good. But she'll probably strike me down if she hears this.
But you know, I didn't see his Call of the Wild, but I heard it's excellent. I loved Ford versus Ferrari. I mean, Logan is another one of those awesome movies that I don't ever care to see again. I thought the Wolverine was a huge step up from. I mean, it wasn't a perfect film, but compared to the X-Men movie before it and the Wolverine Origins movie, it was a masterpiece. 3:10 to Yuma, Walk the Line, Night and Day. You know, I think Night and Day is one of Tom Cruise's most underrated films. So I don't know, man. I mean,
Identity is really good.
yeah, it really. I mean, Copland. I forgot he did Copland. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of misfires, and so I mean,
Yeah, but here's the thing too, right? So I'm looking not just at the director, but I'm looking at the writers. And whenever you have issues like this, a lot of times it goes back to that story. And the guys who wrote this are a couple of guys named Jez and John Henry Butterworth. Weird ass last names.
yeah,
and they've been working with Mangold for a while, right? So they did, they wrote Ford by Ferrari.
okay.
They also wrote Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh,
with, Tom Cruise.
yeah, excellent movie.
That's a good film.
But the one that I saw here in Jez Butterfield's Butterworth's filmography that made me go, oh no, please God no, was that he wrote Spectre.
Oh no.
Yeah, see, that's what I saw, because I thought that was a horribly written movie, and I wonder if maybe that's the source of the issue that we're seeing here, is that you've got something going on there with the story and the screenplay.
Oh man, because see here, and I wonder if this will be like one of my big issues with Spectre was, there's a lot of issues with Spectre, but I tell people that like Spectre to me that starts off really good, like that opening sequence in Mexico during the Day of the Dead. I'm like, okay, this is pretty good, and then it's like, once the title song starts, it's like it just starts this slow descent in quality that it never quite recovers from. Like it just keeps going down and down. Unlike No Time to Die, which was kind of herky jerky, like all over the place, But yeah, oh boy. Well, and I've heard the budget's like $800 million on this thing. I mean, so I don't know if it'll ever make money, but.
$800 million?
No, I'm joking, but I've heard that it's gone way over because they had to stop filming during COVID, and then Harrison Ford got hurt, and then so they've had all kinds of delays and things like that. Plus, just from you could tell from that one shot in the trailer, they did not skimp on the deep fake technology to de-age him. So they've spent quite the pretty penny on this.
Well, and especially
if you shot 7 endings,
really a time travel movie, I'm sure that they've probably had to really make sure that's dialed in, to make it look like he's, actually that age.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, we're kind of speculating about a movie that we haven't seen that doesn't get released for another year, but honestly, the trailer did what it was supposed to do. It got me excited. I'm like, hey. I had zero anticipation. Now I'm up to like a 4 or 5. So it could be good. So now it's kind of like, let's just hope it's good. So maybe I'll be surprised, because something else that surprised the crap out of me was something I didn't expect. Was they dropped the trailer for, is it Transformers: Rise of the Beasts or Beast Wars or what?
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, this is a Beast Wars film. But what's interesting is that they spent so much time making the Transformers in the first few films look like actual vehicles when they're transformed, right? Because they're robots in disguise. Okay.
Right.
But in this one, they were just like, yeah, let's make them all animals, but they still fucking look like robots when they're animals. So I'm like, how is that robots in disguise? Like, this needs a little bit of work here.
Yeah. I mean, my God, they've gone back to the G1 design of the Transformers, though, so I'm digging that.
Yeah, I'm like, there's a big success there.
Yeah.
Like, great job. You finally did what we wanted, but now you're not doing what you really should do with the Beast Wars. I'm like, and then the other thing, too, is like, where does this movie take place in the timeline? Because clearly this is like either... This has to be... Okay, so everything I've seen says this is after Bumblebee.
Right. That's what I've read as well.
Which makes sense. But then Bumblebee was like a reboot, so like we're wiping out what happened with the Shia LaBeouf Transformers going forward. Like Transformers, what was it, 1 through 5? We're just wiping all of that away, and we're starting fresh with this reboot that's in the past, and then
That's what I understand as well.
But we're still keeping Peter keeping Peter Cullen as the voice of Optimus, which they needed to, but still.
yeah. So then it's like
him because.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say we got to protect Peter Cullen because he's one of the last few voices of our childhood that we still have. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy.
No kidding.
Yeah, I forgot. I don't think we did do a tribute to Kevin Conroy, did we?
I don't remember if we did or not.
I don't think we did.
Yeah, we need to for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, here's the other thing too. It's like, so they're bringing Beast Wars in, but like Beast Wars, the TV show, took place after all of the Transformers had happened, and basically like there was a whole ass like conflict about obtaining this like a piece of the spark from the original Transformers to make them more powerful. I think that was like in season 2 or no, I think it was season 3 where they became like these like Transmetal 2 Beast Wars, because there was this whole situation where they went to Earth. It was like prehistoric Earth in the Beast Wars, right? And then they took the forms of animals then, and then they fought the Predacons at the time, and they were the Maximals instead of the Autobots.
Yeah.
And they had their conflicts, and there were no humans around. And the show was fascinating because there were no humans. So I'm like, okay, so I don't know how they're gonna. I guess we're including humans in this one. Fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But then season 2, there was like an event where like these. I think like some kind of star exploded or something happened. I can't remember what it was. It's been so long since I watched it, but it like penetrated the Transformers, and then they became Transmetals, and then their bodies upgraded. So then they actually look like robot animals at that point.
Oh, okay. So kind of like what we saw here in the trailer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then in season 3, they introduced the original Transformers, and then they found the ships that they had crash landed in.
Oh.
And they extracted part of the spark from a couple of those, at least for Megatron and Optimus Prime. And in taking the portions of their spark, they became Transmetal 2 Transformers. So like Megatron was a dinosaur, like a T-Rex in the beginning, but he had turned into a dragon by the end of the show.
Oh, wow.
Because of all of his changes. And then Optimus Prime still stayed a gorilla, but like his gorilla form got real warped. Like he started like doing all kinds of wild shit. Like he had like a transformation that had like a surfboard or something on it.
Damn.
Like he was a silver surfer. He was flying around. I was like, what is happening? Like the show got real wild. And then some of the other characters had like weird transformations too when they turned into Transmetal 2 Transformers as well.
Damn.
But yeah,
gotta sell those toys.
That's right, baby.
Yeah, all of this was just to sell toys, and they sold it to me because I have a giant garbage bag full of those in my mother's attic right now. Like
dude, that shit's gonna be worth some money. It's gonna be worth some money. Don't get rid of that.
Well, they're not in the boxes, so I don't know how much they're gonna be worth, but they're still up there as far as I know. So seeing what they did with this trailer, I was kind of like. Yeah, I feel like they just shoehorned like animal Transformers into the original Transformers, and then they're just saying, "Oh, this is a sequel to the Bumblebee movie that was a success to the failing franchise of the other sequels that we're rebooting now."
Yeah.
And it's like, what are y'all doing?
Well, and that's what kind of like, because I think this looks good.
Yeah, it does actually.
But like at the same time, it's like Bumblebee was so good. It was so good. But I mean, and again, kind of like what we've seen with some of these other things. Like nobody would see it because like now you done burned me like twice now. So and because I thought I had a good time with Dark of the Moon, but I could not stand Age of Extinction. I thought that was a horrible film, and. I thought that was just terrible to the point that I didn't go see the next one, the one with King Arthur or whatever. I didn't watch that at all, and I don't really know that I missed anything. But
I don't know that I've really watched any of them all the way through after 2 or 3.
um,
I didn't
Honestly,
watch any of them through because I am not a masochist and I value my time much more than that. And I've watched Miami Connection and Samurai Cop.
hey,
That shows you how poorly I think of these movies.
well, I really dug the first one. The second one you
The
could
first one was great.
the second one you could definitely tell they were trying to get the script finished before the writer's strike. Okay. That's not to give it a pass because there's a lot of things wrong with that movie. There's a lot of things wrong with that movie. And I remember watching it go, and it's basically got a through line, and then all of a sudden, like, whoa, now we're in Egypt. Well, what the shit happened? Now we're in Egypt, and Shai's arm's broken. What the hell? And then, but I did enjoy Dark of the Moon. I really did, and I'm like, all right, you've kind of. I mean, did I like it as well as the first one? No, but I'm like, okay, you've kind of brought yourself back. I've accepted this aesthetic, this Transformers aesthetic, which is they all basically look alike. I've accepted all that, and then you go into I'm like, hey, they're gonna do the Dinobots. This is gonna be cool. Yeah, they did the Dinobots for 10 freaking minutes. It was awful. It was such a disgrace, such a letdown, and so I'm like, forget this. That movie was so bad. I mean, I didn't even care any. I got that movie as a Christmas gift, and I wanted my money back. Like, how bad is that when you get something for free and like, can I take this to Vintage Stock and maybe get $10 for it? And so I didn't even see the next one, and then I kept hearing really good things about Bumblebee, and so when it came to streaming, I watched it. Like, damn, this is a good movie. This is a damn good movie. So I'm hoping they can keep on that curve. But again, they're trying to shoehorn stuff to sell those toys, man. And I had high hopes for Snake Eyes, too.
Snake Eyes. I forgot about that.
I know.
You triggered Goldar now.
Hey, listen, man, I as much as I dug playing with Star Wars figures, because that was really that. At the tail end of my toyetic part of my life, was the beginning of the Transformers and G.I. Joe, right? And to the point that Transformers actually came along like at the very, very end. I had some He-Man stuff too, but G.I. Joe, man, that was my jam. I loved the cartoon. I loved the comic books. I loved the toys. They were so beautiful. I didn't really mind the first G.I. Joe film. I had some issues with it, but I didn't mind it. Could not stand G.I. Joe Retaliation. I thought, how do you put The Rock and Bruce Willis in a movie and fuck it up? Challenge accepted.
Wow. They're going to find a way to do it.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that this is good. But, as Mr. Narwhal said, he may spend his time better watching Miami Connection or Ninja Cop or The Mean One. All right,
Yep.
all right, Narwhal. This is right up your alley, man. I mean, we also had what was it, Blood and Honey?
Yeah,
Honey, that we had.
How did that perform? Do we know?
Let's find it out here.
Because this is just the next of this is the second of a slew of what are we going to even call this? Like child-based horror films or horror films based on twisted versions of child fantasy, or I'm not even sure what you call this, but
it's almost like they're looking at all of the properties that are either moving into the public domain, or for the things that are not public domain, they're doing barely veiled parodies of them, a la The Mean One, which is a parody of The Grinch That Stole Christmas, but obviously they don't have the rights to Grinch That Stole Christmas, so instead of Whoville, now they're in Newville, and instead of the Grinch, he's the Mean One. So basically, they're able to essentially make a horror version of this film, of this property without actually having to own the IP or pay Dr. Seuss's estate a dime. So
Yeah. Which that's unfortunate because they'd never let him do it. But
oh, absolutely.
I don't know how. I mean, somebody paid money to get this movie made. I mean, so
Yeah.
how did Blood and Honey do?
I'm not seeing any numbers for it. My guess is probably not well.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody probably really knew it was out, and then those that did were only enthusiasts, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, and my guess is also the fact that I believe that it's pretty much just been a streaming film.
Oh, has it?
Looks
Oh,
like,
okay.
On Box Office Mojo, it's made about $1 million at this point.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean,
But again, we're talking about a micro budgeted
oh yeah.
release that is not even really available much in the way of theaters. In fact, it opened in exactly 3 theaters, and in its widest release, it was shown in a whopping 18 theaters.
Okay.
So again, this is not a film that was widely released in theaters. It is, again, intended for streaming services.
Right.
It's intended to be a film that is content that they put out that has a recognizable IP.
Well, and if Paramount Plus paid $5 million for it, they made their money back.
Exactly.
God. Oh boy.
But here's the thing too, that there's a lot of, I guess, opportunity here. In looking at some of these IPs like the Grinch or Winnie the Pooh. Now we just had a note the other day that says they're making a version of Bambi as a horror film.
Yeah.
Where Bambi basically, Bambi's mother gets killed, and then Bambi goes on a rampage to avenge his mother's death. At this point, pretty much any of these kid properties are almost fair game for this kind of treatment. And it's not like this is the first time that we've seen stuff like this too. For example, we've had a number of retellings of Cinderella.
Yeah.
And
Pinocchio.
Various levels of horror. We've had various retellings of Pinocchio, and also Snow White is also a perennial version that you see various spins on with varying levels of gore and craziness.
I was going to suggest Barney, but they already did that and called it Jurassic Park.
This is also true. Yeah.
And but
one that I always thought was interesting was actually a comic series that came out, I think, about 15 years ago, and it was if I recall, the title of the comic series was Pinocchio Vampire Hunter.
Oh my God.
And basically, the whole shtick is,
does he drive his hand through their heart?
Standard. It basically starts off with the whole shtick. Pinocchio and Geppetto, and then vampires kill Geppetto. At which point, then basically Pinocchio goes on the Slayer route, where essentially, in order to get his steaks, he tells a lie, chops off his nose, and then stabs the vampire with it. So.
Oh my God.
You can't make this.
No, you can't. You absolutely can't. I'm disappointed I didn't come up with the idea. Wow, that's wow. See, Goldar, what you missed from those 80 films, all the cocaine that went into making these things.
Well, watching the trailer, this is what I thought Cocaine Bear was going to look like.
Yeah,
you can tell it's very low production.
Oh, it is. Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
oh yeah,
this is like
There's
somebody.
Actually a short film that just came out. I've seen some bits and pieces of it online that basically does a very similar thing with, of all films, Shrek, where basically you have Fiona. You have Fiona's character, who is a human female by day and a ogre at night. but it sort of takes that whole ogre thing and really pushes it to the what if it was real. And ogres, aren't they known for like eating people and sort of being ogreish? And it's a very sort of like where she goes through a transformation, and it's almost like American Werewolf in London, where it's very like graphic, and she's like, and again, they're looking for ways to reuse and revitalize and recycle as many of these IPs as they possibly can. In many cases, obviously doing these as either fan films or short projects. But in cases like Blood and Honey and Bambi and now The Grinch, we're starting to see bigger budgeted films playing in this space.
Teletubbies. That's it. That's the next one. The Teletubbies go on a rampage. I mean, those things scared me anyway. I mean, my God. But yeah, turn those Teletubbies evil, you got something right there.
That's right.
7 brides for 7 brothers. That needs exploration right there. No, I'm just joking. So, all right, guys. Well, we had one more trailer on the list, but it's also 10:15. So, do we want to save Guardians for next time when we can really do a deep dive into it?
For next time, especially to give everyone a little bit more time to also watch the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. Out now on Disney Plus. Go see it. It's very good, and we'll be talking about it in our next episode, hopefully.
Yeah, I think we do a Guardians Christmas special review. Maybe the Rev can join us, and because I know he also wants to do a review of Spirited, which I do too. So that was a lot of fun. So, well, guys, I appreciate your very well reasoned thoughts on Wakanda Forever tonight. We didn't have a lot of folks tuned in, but that's okay. The folks tuned in, I'm sure, had a good time. And want to let everybody know that we do not have Sci-Fi Friday tomorrow, but we will try to get some content up for next week. Hopefully it's our James Bond material. We have a lot of fun stuff going on over on our YouTube channel, from old installments of Fanurism Flicks to episodes of The Talking Geek to episodes of Nightcrawlers. To actually, hopefully, maybe some Retromania stuff coming in soon. So until next time, I am the Geek Boy for Goldar, the gamer with the golden throat, and Mr. Narwhal for Fanboys918, signing off. Peace.